In this tutorial, we're going to set up a basic Windows networking environment using Oracle VirtualBox. First, we'll download and install VirtualBox, along with the Windows Server 2019 and Windows 10 ISOs, which will allow us to run two separate virtual machines. The first virtual machine will be our domain controller, which will host Active Directory. For networking, this virtual machine will have two network adapters, one to connect to the internet and the other to connect to a private VirtualBox network that our client machines will use to communicate. After creating and configuring the virtual machine, we'll install Server 2019 and set up IP addressing for the internal network and let the external network automatically get its IP from our home network or router. Next, we'll install Active Directory on the DC, create a new domain, and configure NAT and routing so that clients on the private network can access the internet through the DC. We'll also set up DHCP on the DC, ensuring that when we create our Windows 10 client virtual machine, it will automatically receive an IP address. Before we move on to the client, we'll run a PowerShell script on the domain controller that will automatically create 1,000 users in Active Directory. This script will handle all the user creation, making it easier to manage large environments. Once the users are created, we'll set up another virtual machine for the Windows 10 client. This machine will be connected to the private VirtualBox network and will join into the domain we created on the DC. After joining the domain, I'll log into the Windows 10 client using one of the domain accounts, demonstrating how it integrates with Active Directory. This will give you a solid foundation in Windows networking with Active Directory and DHCP, and you'll have a functional environment to build on for future projects. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can follow along with upcoming videos where I'll be expanding on this environment and diving deeper into Windows networking and server management. So once you've installed your VirtualBox, you're going to open it up and we're going to create our new virtual machine for the domain controller. And do that by clicking on New at the top and name it DC. And we're also going to go ahead and change our version to other Windows 64-bit. And I'm going to assign our RAM to 2 gigabytes. Sorry. And go ahead and click on Finish. So next, we're going to go ahead and click on Settings. And in General Settings, click on Advanced. Change Shared Clipboard and drag and drop to bidirectional. This is going to let us copy something from our device into our virtual machine, which we'll do later on. And next, we're going to configure the processor. If you have multi-core CPU, assign additional processors. Otherwise, one will be fine. I'm going to set mine to 4. And now we'll configure the network settings. Go ahead and click on Network. We're going to leave our first adapter as NAT so that it can connect to the internet. For adapter 2, go ahead and check that. We're going to set it to internal network so that our client virtual machine can communicate with the domain controller. So once that's done, we can go ahead and click on OK. And here we go. We can go ahead and double click this to start it up. And here is where you'll click on the drop down. So this is where you'll put in your Server 2019 ISO. Go ahead and click Mount and retry boot and begin the installation. So once it's started up, click Next. Click on Install Now. For operating system, we're going to select Windows Server 2019 Standard Evaluation, the desktop experience one. Click Next. Accept license terms. Next. Custom. Next. This is going to take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and come back. Okay, so once the installation is done, it's going to restart. So first thing it's going to do is going to ask you to create a password. We're going to do something easy. Password 1. Oops. I'm going to set a password and make it password 1 with capital P, only for the sake of this home lab. Something easy. Go ahead and click finish. All right. And so right here, it's asking us to press Control Alt Delete. I'm on a Mac, so I'm not gonna be able to click that. If you're in the same environment as me, you're gonna go ahead and click Input at the top, go to Keyboard, and insert Control Alt Delete. Remember our password, which is password 1. Again, don't use this in any other setting. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is install our guest editions, because as you can see, it's very small, and even when we extend it, it remains the same size. So for a better experience, we're going to go ahead to the top and select devices, and then insert guest edition CD image. So click that. Nothing's really going to happen, but just make sure you click that. I'll close some of these things here, and I'm going to go ahead into File Explorer and click on this PC. Select CD drive, double click that, and we're going to choose VBox Windows Editions AMD 64. Double click on that, hit next, hit install. And right here, we're going to click on I want to manually reboot later. I have done this before where I just click reboot now, and for some reason it doesn't work the first time it reboots. So click on I want to manually reboot later, select finish, and we're just going to click here, click on restart, continue. So again, input, keyboard, insert, Control Alt Delete, my password 1, enter. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and adjust our screen. Usually it takes a bit for me. So now we're going to go ahead and set up our IP addressing. If you remember from the diagram, we have 2 NICs, and one of them is connected to the internet, which will be our home router. So we don't have to do anything with that one, but the internal one that will be communicating with the client virtual machine, that one we do have to set it up. So in order to do that, we're going to click on network, the network icon at the bottom right corner. Click on network, click on change adapter options. We're going to check out which one is which. Right here we have 2. So in order for us to set it up later for routing, we want to make sure we name them properly. So let's see which one is which. I'm going to go ahead and right click and click on status on the first one, then details. Okay, so this one, if you see something like 169.254, so basically what happened is that because we set up 2 network adapters, probably the other one is going to be the one connected to my home router. So this one, because it couldn't find an IP address, VirtualBox assigned it one. So this is how we got the 169.254. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. So we know that this one is the internal one. So we're going to right click and rename and make it something very different from the other one, and name it internal. And this one, I'm pretty sure is the one connected to my home network. Click on status, details, and yeah. So yeah, you're gonna see something like 10.0. This one, go ahead and close that, and we can rename this one just internet. All right. So okay, so now that we've renamed them, we're gonna go ahead into our internal one. Go ahead and right click, select properties, and we are going to double click Internet Protocol version 4, IPv4. Okay, so we're gonna click use the following IP address. We're gonna enter, if you remember from our diagram, and assign it. Oh, sorry. Assignment 172.16.01. And 255.255.255. We're going to leave our default gateway blank since the domain controller itself will act as the gateway. Then our preferred DNS, since installing the Active Directory will also install DNS, we can set the preferred DNS server to itself. So we could just enter the same IP address of the server. So 172.16.01. And hit OK. Click OK. All right. So now we're going to rename this PC because it has some arbitrary name. So we go ahead and close that. We're going to right click the start menu, then select System, then click rename this PC. And so you see that's some weird name. I'm going to go ahead and just name it DC. Next. And so we're going to go ahead and restart. Restart now. Wait for that to boot up again. Okay. Go ahead again, keyboard, insert Control R delete, our password. Okay, so now we're going to add our Active Directory in our domain controller. We can do that by selecting our start menu. We're going to our server manager, select add roles and features. Click next, click next, click next, and we're going to pick Active Directory Domain Services. Make sure you select that one because there are other Active Directories. Check that. Add features. Hit next, next, install. Once that's installed, we're going to see a yellow flag. We can go ahead and close that. We're going to see a yellow flag up here. And so we do have to set up and create our domain. So we're going to go ahead and click add a new forest. And we're going to name it mydomain.com. And hit next. Same password, password 1, capital B. Next, next, next. Next, next, install. All right, it's gonna go ahead and restart. So you can go ahead and let it. Okay, now that it's back up, we're gonna go ahead and now you see it's my domain -administrator. I'm gonna put in our password. Oops. All right. Okay, so now instead of using the built-in domain admin account, we're going to go ahead and create our own. So go ahead and click Start Menu, Windows Administrative Tools, drop down, and click Active Directory User and Computers. Let me make this bigger. I keep forgetting to do that every time I restart. So go ahead and drop down My Domain, and we're going to right-click New Organizational Unit. And so we're going to name it admins like this. We're going to uncheck protect container for accidental deletion. Okay, then click OK. And so inside our new admins folder, we're going to right click new and create a new user. So you can put in your information. I'm going to go ahead and put in my name, and our user login is going to be A for admin, our first initial, last name. Okay, this is just like a common username, and then just an A for admin in an organization. So go ahead and click next, same password, And we're going to uncheck this one and select password never expires. So now that we have those settings is really just for the home lab. Click next, finish, and now we have our user. So although we named it A as admin, we do have to set it up as a domain admin. So we're going to right click, then select properties, member of, add. We're going to type in domain admins, check name, click OK, and there we go. Click apply, OK. So now we have the domain admin account created. So now we can log out, click our start menu, administrator, sign out, and go in there. And we're going to check, we're going to select other user, put in our new admin account username, which is your name, same password, enter. All right, so now that we're in, we're going to install our RAS/NAT, if you remember in our diagram, which is a remote access server and network address translation. So this will allow our Windows 10 client to be on a private virtual network while still accessing the internet through the domain controller. So by setting up the NAT, the domain controller will act as a gateway, forwarding traffic between our network and our internal network and the internet. All right, and so in order to do that, we're gonna go ahead and click on add roles and features again. Again, next, next, next. And we're gonna look for remote access, check that. Click next, next, next. And we're gonna check routing, add features, next, 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 install. Okay, so now that that's done, you can go ahead and close that, go to tools, and we're gonna scroll all the way down to routing and remote access. So we can right click, configure and enable, click next, and we're gonna select NAT, click next, we're gonna check. Oh no. Okay, yeah, so this is supposed to be selected in two. Internet should be showing. Let me close this out and do this again. Run this one more time. Right click, configure, next, next. All right, but we renamed them so that we know which one to select. So we're gonna click on internet, hit next, and finish. Okay, so now we can see that the little green is a good sign. So we'll go ahead and close that. So now when we set up our client 1 Windows 10 virtual machine, they should be able to connect to the internet as long as we set up our DHCP, which we'll be doing right now. We're going to go ahead and add roles and features. Next, 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 and DHCP server. Make sure you click that. Add features. Next. Next, next, install. So that's done installing. And so we're gonna go ahead and click tools and then DHCP, and that should open up our DHCP panel. All right, we can go ahead and make that bigger. And so basically we're gonna go ahead and set the scope. And so what DHCP does is it'll give an IP address to our private network, and we can set a scope on the IP addresses that it will give out. And so in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and drop down my domain IPv4. We're going to right click, new scope, hit next. And so I like to name it the range that it'll be. So 172.16.0.100 through 200. That's going to be our range. Okay, next. So the start one, 172.16.0.100 and 172.16.0.200. And then remember our mask is 255, 255, 255. And then click next. Okay, exclusions not applicable, so we don't need to add anything. Hit next. And so this is the lease duration. And this will basically like give it a set time limit. This one is set to 8 days. And that's basically how long a device will have that IP address until it needs to be put back into the pool and reused. So we're gonna just leave it as is since it's just our home lab. Hit next. So because we want our clients to have access to the internet, we do want them to be able to configure IP address and DNS server. So we can leave that as yes. Click next. So we're gonna go ahead and add the domain controller's IP address, which is 172.16.0.1. Click add. Next. Okay, and so you're gonna see our IP address here, and then we have to have our domain as our DNS server. So that's why you see the mydomain.com. And so then we can go ahead and click next. Not applicable. Next. Finish. And so now we can go ahead and refresh. Right click our domain, refresh, and then authorize, and then refresh. And there we go again, green check marks, good sign. Okay, and if you just drop down IPv4, we can look at our scope. And if we click on address leases, you'll see that there's nothing there because we haven't made our client one virtual machine yet. So now before creating our client one virtual machine, what we're gonna do is, so that we don't have to manually make all these user accounts, we're gonna use a PowerShell script to automate it. So in order to do that, first we need access to the internet so that we can download the file. We're gonna configure this local server. And so we're only doing this so that we can get access to the internet, but ideally you don't want to do this in a production environment. And so because it's a home lab, it's okay. We're gonna go ahead and click our IE Enhanced Security Configuration. We're gonna click on the on. And so we're gonna turn these off. And we're only doing this in our home environment just because just some annoying pop-ups might come up when we browse the internet. And so for that not to show up, we're gonna turn these off. Click OK, and then you're gonna go on the link in my description for the file. We're gonna copy that and paste it into the Internet Explorer. So go ahead and open our Internet Explorer and paste that link from the description. And you want to save as and put it in our desktop for easy access. Hit save. And now we can close all this stuff. And so here it is. We're gonna extract it though. So you want to double click and then drag this out. There we go. And now open it up. And so now we see that there's 3 files in here. And so basically we have our script, and then In this text document, it's just 1,000 names that were just generated. You want to double click that and put your name at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and put my name, save, and close this. All right, so now we're going to click our Start menu, Windows PowerShell, drop down and select the Windows PowerShell ICE. And what you want to make sure you do is you right click and open it as Run as Administrator. Remember to do this because one time I've done this lab a couple of times and I forgot to do that and I ran into an error. So make sure you do that. Go ahead and click yes. And we're going to go ahead and open our file. Go to desktop and the create users one. Open that up. You can go ahead and close this. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we enable the execution of all scripts. Because there is this security feature where it's gonna say like it's not digitally signed, but because this is our home lab, we could just enable that by putting in set execution policy unrestricted. All right, and then say yes to all. Okay, so just a quick overview on what's going on here. So the first thing we did is we set the password for all users and get the list of first and last names from the names text file. We then loop through each name, split it into first and last names, and create a username by combining the first letter of the first name with the full last name. So it's able to split by recognizing that space in between the first and last name. And then so for each user, we create a new Active Directory user account with the following attributes: the given name, surname, display name, employee ID, all that good stuff. Oh, and in this one, this is just creating a user file to put all the accounts in. All right, and so we're gonna go directly to that file, cd c dash users dash our admin account dash desktop dash our file, or our folder, and then enter. Okay, and then we want to make sure that our file is there. Yep, our name's text file is there. And then we're going to go ahead and click run. Run once. And there we go. So it is going to take a little while because it is 1,000 users. So this is just going to go ahead and generate all those accounts. Okay, so now that it's done, you can check back in Active Directory to see the users. Yep. And there we go. If you right click my domain and hit find now, yep, it's 1,052 items. All right, and then search our name. And there I am. Okay, cool. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is create our client virtual machine. So you can minimize that and hit new. We're gonna name this client 1. And our version Windows 10 64-bit, and hit finish. Same as before, settings, advanced, bidirectional. And so you can change the processor as well if you like. And so we're gonna go to network, and the first adapter is gonna be internal network, because remember we're gonna assign it to our private network. Click OK. And there we go. You can go ahead and double click to start it up. And then click the drop down, other. Okay, and click OK, install now. And I don't have a product key, select that. And we're gonna choose Windows 10 Pro. Next. Accept license terms. Next. Custom. Next. Let that install. Okay, and so we're gonna just select yes. And click yes. Skip. Skip. And we're going to choose all the basic stuff: personal use, offline account, limited experience. We're going to name this user. Next. No need for a password. Next. We want to skip all that just so that it doesn't ask you to sign into a Microsoft account. Not now. You can turn all these off. Accept. Skip. Not now. And there we go. All right. And so we're going to pull up our command line to see if we're connected to the internet. And type down here CMD. Open that up. And we're going to ping Google to see if it's connected. All right, so Google rendered, which lets us know it's connected to the internet. And let's see if everything's in the right place. We're gonna type in ipconfig, hit enter. Yep, all that checks out. Okay, and so we're gonna also ping our domain. Yep, 172.16.01 looks right. And so now we're gonna change the name on the machine, because right now it's some weird name. So research here, host name. Yeah, so we're gonna change that. So you could do that by clicking start menu, right clicking it, go to system, and instead we're gonna go to advanced. So we're gonna go to rename this PC advanced. And you're not gonna go to computer description, you're gonna go down to change and put in client 1. Okay, and then so we're also gonna select domain and join it to our domain, mydomain.com. Okay, and then yep, so we got our name and we're joining it to the domain. And you can go ahead and put in either your admin account or your user account. It should go in. So I'm going to put in my admin account. All right, looks good. So now, okay, you can go ahead and click OK. And click OK. You can close this. Restart now. All right, and so in the meantime, we're gonna go back to our domain controller. And if it logged you out, you can go ahead and log back in. Remember to go to other user. Make sure it's signing into my domain. Go into your admin account. And so we're gonna go back to our DHCP. If you remember, you go to Server Manager, go to Tools, and DHCP. All right. And so if you drop down IPv. So now looking at our scope here, go to Address, Leases, and yep, so we can see our client 1 machine is linked here. So it basically needed an IP address and the DHCP gave it one. So now it's in here. Okay, and so now we're gonna go check out our Active Directory. So Start Menu, Administrative Tools, Active Directory, Users, and Computers. And again, drop down My Domain, and we're gonna go to Computers. And there we go. So now because we linked it to our domain, it's showing up here. So now because we attached it to our domain, we're able to log in into that machine with any of these users and the right credentials. So the username and the password one. And so we can go ahead and go back to the client 1 machine and make sure you go to other user, sign into my domain, and put in our username. And you can use one of the user accounts. I'm going to use my own. Oops. Okay. First initial, last name, same password. Okay, and so this is technically the first time we're signing in. So it's doing this thing where it's creating our profile. So yeah, to wrap things up, we basically set up a mini corporate network here. So it's like we just got hired and boom, all our accounts got created automatically. The system did its thing, set up our profile, fired up our virtual machine, kind of like our digital office space. Once everything's ready, you're automatically logged in with your corporate credentials, so you can jump right into work with no extra steps. So actually over at our client machine, everything's good to go. And if we check and go to our command line again, open that up, we should be able to see, we should be able to see our username. And yeah, that's it. Hope this gave you a better idea of how everything works, and thanks for watching.